Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Bright Side. I'm your host, Howie Craw, and this is my sidekick and co-host, Dr. J.C. Dornick, who today is unapologetically dope, a.k.a. The Dragon. Good to see you, J.C., and you still got the stash going, so we're strong into the new year with the stash.
AKA Pablo Escobar, AKA Tom Selleck, AKA Super Mario. Who knows?
Speaking of Pablo Escobar, I am in the process of rewatching from the beginning Entourage with my son, and we're right in the part now where Vince takes all his money, sells the house, and buys the script to Medellin, which is the Pablo Escobar story. All right, you can take that off. We'll go with the glasses, but so it's really, and then what's really wild is that's probably already 10 years old, Entourage, but Narcos, which came out on Netflix, went on to become a huge hit. Yeah. And so Pablo Escobar, what an interesting story. And the people saw the bright side from him because he would give them shelter, food, and whatever, hope. But a dangerously violent man. And today, let's go to our country. Today here in America was a huge day. January 20th, 2021, we watch the transfer of power from one person or one party to another. And we've been through a lot. 2 weeks ago, you and I were on, and that was the day that, the Capitol was stormed. And here we are 2 weeks later, talk about the bright side. Having lived in Washington for 25 years, it looked majestic today. The weather was crisp and the sun was shining. And, unfortunately, it was in lockdown, but they did what they had to do. The country, the Capitol, it looked amazing. And I think that where I want to go with the bright side is when one door closes, another one opens. And when the door opens, why not be in an optimistic mood? Why not let a door that closes stay closed rather than just always going in and pulling out things? Give it a chance. So, I think, what was it? Give peace a chance, right? And whatever we're not talking about politics and party affiliations. We're talking about change. Yeah. And a line that I always loved is that change stimulates growth. So as a country, we're all going to go through some sort of change here. Yeah. Can we all be optimistic and see the bright side that maybe, hopefully, better days are ahead? So a door closes, a door opens. How do you feel about that?
It's interesting because one of the things that I've learned to do is, and I've talked about this idea of looking at things holographically. When you were talking, I was looking at it from my point of view. I was looking at it from the point of view of the people that were excited about today. I was looking at the people that were not excited about today. So what it reminds me is that somebody that is seeing the dark side of something might actually think that they're seeing the bright side. So, that just reminds me to really, really appreciate the fact that, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? But one thing that's interesting, you brought me back to our podcast 2 weeks ago when, once again, some people said chaos, pandemonium, terrorism, and some people said, yeah, So once again, it's in the eye of the beholder. But here's what's interesting. If anybody looked at that day 2 weeks ago and said to themselves, they said, "Oh, this is crazy. This is terrible. What's going on?" Here we are today, and you use the word majestic. It's proof positive that change is actually a positive thing very often. You move from a day of potential darkness to this, but then the other people, they might not be excited about change today. So change is an interesting thing. Change is something you either embrace or you don't embrace. So the only thing I can say about change, here's what's always a constant, is that we fear change, but growth only takes place on the other side of change. I mean, that's one thing. If you don't like what your success was in life, in physical, mental, and financial well-being in 2020, then you need change. So change is necessary, but the only problem is that change always sits on the other side of challenge, right? So what's the solution? So my solution is we talk about this all the time, Howie. I just love the pause. I just love to just stop and not give my knee-jerk reaction to things and just take a walk around. We spoke about that eloquently the other day. Take a walk around, see things from everybody's point of view. And when you do that and you look at change, you don't really, you realize that your opinion doesn't even really matter, because your opinion is just like an elbow.
It's your opinion. Yeah, it's your opinion.
So that's my new thing is somebody goes, "Hey, Dragon, do you like change?" I go, eh. You know what I mean? Like, who cares what I have to say? Who cares about my opinion? When you state an opinion about something, what happens in that moment is you pick a side. If there's two sides to everything, why would anybody pick a side? And here's why they pick a side. It's because they say, "I've got to stand for my side." I said, "But who asked you to stand for your side? Is your side threatened?" So in any case, my message to everybody is, if you thought today was a beautiful day, I love you. If you thought today was a nightmare, I love you too, because you're both necessary. And I'm open to change. That's all I can say.
It is funny how people see things. What do you see here?
Oh, he's got a prop ready. Did you prep that?
No.
That was an on-the-fly prop?
I was just looking at it. What do you see here?
I see a glass half full or
half empty.
That's
right? And if you think we had 100 people here, how many would say full or how many would say empty?
Good visual. That's
right? So we've always been told it's better to see the glass as half full than half empty, but it is a question that can easily be asked, and it is incredible how you can get so many different answers. And then I'm sure you'll get the person that says it's 5/8 or 3/4, but it is amazing. And I guess that's what choice is all about. I always joke around and say, Baskin Robbins advertises they have 31 flavors. Why do they have 31 flavors?
I don't know. I'm going to let you tell me.
No, so people have choice. What's your favorite flavor if you go there? What's your favorite flavor?
It's interesting that you say that, because you just made me realize in this moment that I can't even remember the last time I went and ordered ice cream from somewhere. But I do know that in other countries, there are flavors that don't exist. So this whole 31 flavor thing is a scam. There's more than 31 flavors.
Oh yeah, there is. I worked there as a kid. There's 100, and what they would do is at the end of every month, you keep the staples: the vanilla, the chocolate, the strawberry, the Rocky Road, the mint chip, the chocolate chip.
Rocky Road. Right? I like a little marshmallow, and I like some nuts in my ice cream.
Yeah, there you go. Pick the marshmallows out of the Rocky Road. But that is a symbol of where we are. It's TV. There's 800 channels. I laugh. I thought it was only myself, but every once in a while I'll be somewhere else and we'll say, let's watch a movie. Yeah. And you go to Netflix and you can find a movie. You look at 300 things, you're watching trailers, there's nothing to watch. How is that there is nothing to watch? So, you know, when you think about what we had back then, there's plenty to watch. So sometimes we have too many choices. Yeah. And when you have so many choices, maybe it is a little bit harder to see the bright side.
Yeah.
So if you could limit the choices to good choices, maybe it allows you and frees you up to have that space to appreciate and be on the bright side. So I didn't even think about that. Overabundance of choices. And I think that's why our program's so successful. We limit the amount of choices. And when you don't have so many choices and the freedom to just go at it and you stick, you get results. Choices.
You know, it's interesting. I'm all about results. Like what I spent a lot of my time, you know, one of the vibes that I've been rocking in Dragonland. And you know, I'm super excited. I told you today about my book, because here's a great example of change. I've got my book being edited and rewritten right now, and they're taking a lot of like liberty to just really change things up, almost change the whole way the book presentation. So there's change right now. At first, I was adverse to it, right? But then I realized that that's the way. But one of the things that I speak about in my book that is a big part of my life is just this idea, and this filters perfectly into change, is just this idea of, you know, catching yourself and identifying what's more important to you in that moment, to be right or kind. If you're adverse to change, you're probably leaning a little bit more on the side of being right. Because if I say I don't want to embrace change, in the same sentence, I'm saying I want to stay the same. It's another version of trying to be right. That's really, really important to recognize, because if you do any research on any sort of success story, you'll see over and over and over again that the people always found their sweet spot, or they found success on the other side of adversity, obstacles, trauma, you know, change, right? So growth doesn't take place in the comfort zone; it takes place out in the uncomfortable zone, outside the comfortable zone. So we know factual. I like to chase the facts, you know. And by the way, this is a great way to choose to see the bright side, is to not always have to be right. Whenever something happens, always just pause and just say, well, I'm not sure. You know, somebody asked me the other day, somebody was on a rant about, you know, Donald Trump, right? And, you know, this was a person that didn't care for him, and they were yelling and screaming and stuff like that. This happened a while ago. And then they finally turned to me and asked me what I thought. And I said, about what? And then they said, about him. And I go, I don't know. I've never met him. Right? So, you know, what I'm saying is that why would I need to tell this stranger what I thought? And that's because I'm probably afraid of losing control. And control is typically, we think we lose control when we embrace change. But then again, we know that everything that we desire is on the other side of change. So if you're someone today that is feeling icky because of the change, all you might find success in just doing a little bit of research on success, and that is that, you know, God only prunes the branches he wants to see grow. The obstacle is the way. Embrace the suck. It's always the same story. So if you're experiencing a lot of change today and it's making you feel icky, I'm just going to offer you, you know, just the opportunity to recognize that it's a good thing, because change is the way.
Yep, we learned so much as we face that place of wanting to make change or making change. And like you said, in so many of these stories, that you hear from the greatest leaders in the world, whether it's Nelson Mandela or whoever they are. I don't know why he just popped up, or Martin Luther King
on
this
my
week.
executive board, Nelson Mandela.
Right, I did hear that the other day. I like that you put together an executive board. You had an interesting cast of characters on your executive board. And, but, you know, the question is, do you struggle with change? And I think it's a very hard thing for people to do. And especially, I think, the older we get, the habits that we create, sometimes it's hard to break them. And that's why, you know, in the work that I've done with Tamsin, she's been great in that, you know, you have to applaud every little change that you make, even if it's just a small change. But if you repeat it day after day after a day, those little small steps become something much bigger. You know, you don't go out and train for a marathon running a marathon the first day. And, you know, you start with a game plan, and you start with a half a mile, 2 miles, you know, and you build up. And it's the same way with anything else that you might want in your life. So I think that change is really, it's an opportunity to grow. It's an opportunity to get what you want. And I think the staying where you are, staying in that same playing field and not entering the new arena or the new stadium. Speaking of stadiums and arenas, you know, I love sports, right? And it's funny because you told me you love Formula One racing, and I don't know a lot about it, but I guess I caught there's a series. There's a TV, it's on Netflix, right?
If anybody watches that series, they will like Formula One.
Yeah. So I watched, and it was just incredible. Now, think about when they come in for a pit stop. If they need to change a bumper, a tire, or whatever, but there's no questions asked. They know that they got to make that change if they want to be there for the next pit stop, or else they'll get out. So there are sometimes, you know, when your iPhone, when it's ready for an upgrade, people run to make that change. Some things we do and we change without any thought, any consideration. They're just givens. But some of the others are much more difficult to do. And some are really just easy. And it's the non-negotiable ones that you should really negotiate your way through. So when you think of some of the things that people have the hardest time changing, you know, what is it? You know, what comes to mind? What are some of the things that you think come to mind?
Well, you know, the key here is you just brought something right up to the top of my mind. And that is one of the reasons people struggle with change is because they think that it's going to happen too fast, because we're all afraid of being overwhelmed by change. So the key is to understand that there's a certain type of change called incremental change. You know, you brought up Tamsin, who's just, you know, a master of habitual change and forming habits. You know, remember something, whether it's a good habit or a bad habit, you don't form a habit in one day. You have to work at it over time. So the type of change that we struggle with the most is when you take something that you're used to doing all the time, or a way of thinking or a knee-jerk reaction that you take all the time, and then all of a sudden you, for the first time, change the way you react or the way you do something. I'll bring up one of our listeners, the amazing Tanya Johnson, who I know is here. I'm going to give Tanya some props, because Tanya is embarking on one of the hardest changes in the world. Tanya's on your program. She's crushing it. She's losing weight and getting healthy, but that's not the biggest one. Tanya, I believe, is about 17 days. Tanya, tell us in the chat. She's about 17 days smoke free. Now, remember, change. Now, I could be a non-smoker, and if I have a cigarette today, that's change, and I know that that's going to suck because I'm going to cough and I'm going to say this is terrible. But if I keep working at it, I'll be a smoker. So if you're going to reverse a habit, so you brought up Tamsin, changing habits, changing a bad habit to a good habit is tough because it's a habit. It's on autopilot. Whenever I see somebody on the news or anything reacting, and getting hot-headed about something, I always recite in my head, I always say, forgive them for they know not what they do. Most of the things that we do, and I keep saying knee-jerk, are things that we don't even know we're doing. So when you try to change one of those automatic subconscious, remember, your 95% of your day and your mind is on autopilot, subconscious mind. So when you try to change one of those things, you're going to react to it adversely. And that's why we're afraid of that change, because we're afraid of this comfort of just allowing our bodies to kind of do what they always do. So big ups to Tanya. Did she tell us, Tanya, what is it, 17 days or 18?
She didn't say, but I didn't know this, but Amber quit 3 years ago.
Well, look at
that's amazing.
So Amber has embraced that change. So if Amber went and had a cigarette right now, she'd fall on the ground coughing because it's too much change. But if she worked at it, and Amber knows this, and had another and another and another, she could get that back, but I know she won't.
Yeah, and I think so much too, we talk about habits. Everybody thinks it's just always about creating good new habits. It's equally as important or more important to break the bad habits, because those are the ones that get in the way of creating the good habits. Yeah, Tanya's at 17 glorious days. Good job, Tanya.
Tanya, put in the chat how much money you have saved by not smoking in 17 days, and we'll report that back. It's probably like $300. It's insane. So what a great topic, Howie.
Yeah, it's, in a line, like I said, my friend Tom Nolan, I gave him this line a long time ago: change stimulates growth. And when you think about athletes again, you'll see a player that, is playing on a team and it's just mediocre, and then for whatever reason he gets out of a situation and goes somewhere else and he lights it up. Talk about change. $320 she saved in 17 days. It's real money. It's great.
You know what's interesting, Howie? Remember, I'm sure you had somebody say this, and you might have even said it to someone. You say, don't you go changing, right? Yeah. So that's something that rings in our head from childhood, in our program.
Billy Joel? Was that Billy Joel?
That's right. Don't go changing. But in some cases, like in The Outsiders, when, stay gold, pony boy, by the way, I saw that the other day. You know what movie I saw the other day? I saw a classic the other day. Do you remember the movie My Bodyguard?
Was that with Whitney Houston and Kevin Costner?
No. That's The Bodyguard. My Bodyguard is an old movie about this little kid. His father owns a hotel, and he's getting picked on. One of Matt Dillon's first movies ever. Matt Dillon's the bully, picking on this kid, and then he hires this guy to be his bodyguard. Beautiful movie. But but we're taught,
I don't remember that one.
We're taught to, be afraid of change. Like there's it's an interesting book called The Big Leap, and we talk about these hidden barriers. And it's interesting. What it means in essence is that when we're moving forward towards something, there's these limits that we have set from our program that don't allow us to go all the way. If you're somebody listening that finds yourself going all the way like somebody on program, and then you cheat after a certain day, or you're going after your financial goals and then you stop yourself for whatever reason, those are called hidden barriers. But a lot of that, what he speaks about in that book, is it's when you get to that hidden barrier, overwhelm is one of them. You feel overwhelmed. I don't want to get overwhelmed. That's where you start to fear change. So if anybody wants to deep dive into this topic, that'd be a great book. The Big Leap by a guy named Gay Hendricks.
The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks.
Yeah.
Speaking of change, we're using StreamYard here, and we also are on Facebook and some other places. There are people there, and I wonder why we don't see them here.
Yeah, there's people that are posting on different parts of a channel, but not here.
But not here. So that's strange. We have to try and figure that out, because I know that there are other people on other channels, yours, mine, YouTube, that we can't really see them here. So for those that are here, we appreciate you. And if we're not answering your question, it's because we're not seeing it. So thank you, and we will fix that for next week's show.
Or maybe we won't. Or maybe we won't. Either
you
way,
never know, right?
Okay. and next week something else might happen. I'm okay with that as well.
Yeah. So today's a big day. Today is a big day, and let's just hope as this door opens that we all give it a chance and come together and really hope for everybody's best interest.
Yeah, that's all we can ever do. You know, it was interesting. Our daughter, who by the grace of God is going to be with us. We'll have to have her on the bright side. You're going to love her.
Can I ask you a question? I saw that there's 2 strains out there, right? There's is it involved at all? Because it's a South African thing.
You know what?
I know. Okay.
What's the value in talking about that, right? Because we don't know what we don't know.
Okay.
What's interesting about my daughter is she's in an online school, and so think about a 10-year-old looking at change. Is today even a big day for a 10-year-old? Because they're very, very impressionable. So her school, fantastic school, gave her the ability to send a letter to the White House. So she had the opportunity to think in her head at 10, does she want to send a letter and say thank you to Mr. Trump for his 4 years of service? Or does she want to send a letter and say welcome and congratulations to Mr. Biden for coming in? And it's interesting because at 10 years old, here we are, because we just had this great talk about change, which, by the way, rhymes with strange. But when you look at that, think about the kids that don't even know about this stuff. We have the ability to teach kids how to embrace change and the obstacles away. So, Chicken and I started to say, well, what should we tell her? What should we tell her? And I said, we will allow her to decide what she thinks. It was interesting. And what we find is that a 10-year-old who has not been told how to think yet saw the bright side of both sides. They just said, thank you, sir, for your service, and congratulations and welcome. And what was interesting about it for her, before somebody gets in her brain and tells her how to think, the way she's looking at it is that she's going to be a citizen of America in the next year, and this is the first president that she will have. So if you look through the eyes of a 10-year-old, which might be helpful every now and then, she's not struggling with change because she hasn't been tainted with anything else. So it's interesting. She's not being told to choose, so she's automatically choosing the bright side. I love that.
You said tainted. I was thinking jaded. Same words, same thing.
Tainted, whatever.
Right? So that's great, and that is a nice way to look at it. Thank you, and good luck. Right?
Yeah.
Why not? Keep it simple. You got to love youth. They say that, what is it? Youth is wasted on the young, something like that. Was that the line? It's a beautiful thing. So as we come up here on our half hour, and we're going to keep it to that, any parting words, any thoughts, anything that you want to just share with our audience?
Don't go changing. No, just saying. Embrace
David Bowie. David Bowie.
Embrace change. And I believe that the best way to go through life is to just not be in such a hurry to be right about something. And it's tough when you're thinking that you have to defend your word and all that stuff. But one of the things that I realize is that my opinion, unless I'm looking for a fight, my opinion doesn't matter as much as I thought it did. You know what I mean? So what I'm learning how to do is recognize that there's a duality at all times, a positive and a negative side. And that means that they're both necessary. So happy people, mean people, sad people, you know, I love them all. They're all necessary. So I'm okay with anything, because all I'm really looking to do is be my best so I can experience this thing called life to its fullest. And what comes with that is a lot of change, and I'm open to it.
Change is constant. That is the one thing that will always come, regardless of whether you want it or not. It is the guarantee that we will always have it. We have no idea what's in store tomorrow, next Wednesday, or 6 months or a year. And you know, if you just think about the year that we just went through, that's one for the history books. It started, I remember, with we lost a great guy in Kobe Bryant, and that was really got everybody, shook everybody. And then from there, you know, the rest of the script. So, you know, let's a new door to a new year. And we talked about that. It's only a calendar and it's only a date, but let's be optimistic that, you know, a door opened today, and let's just hope for our country, better days ahead, and stay optimistic. And change stimulates growth, and keep a great attitude. And if anybody wants to talk to us or take these conversations further, we're here for you.
Yeah, action is key. If you learn something today, what you want to do is put it into play. Don't just walk around thinking, hey, I'm inspired, I know something. An hour from now, you won't be anymore unless you put it into action. So if you woke up and you had that rumbling in your belly and you said, I wanted to start my new life today, I want to create change because I'm not satisfied with yesterday, then get in touch with the people that are offering their hand to you, because it's not by mistake that an opportunity has showed up in front of you. And I'll say one last thing, Howie. After 30 minutes on this, wouldn't you say that you're a little bit used to the change called the dragon mustache? You're getting a little bit used to it now, right? It feels okay.
I'm used to it. I just, yeah, I you know, it'll be funny when it eventually comes off to hear the comments, you know.
If it does.
Oh, I will take a bet on that. If it's a matter of when, not if.
All right, my brother.
All right. Love to everybody. Have a great rest of the week. We'll see you again next Wednesday. Thank you, JC.
Be good.